Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, today I've got a mega episode planned for you guys with plenty of terraforming and the next villager profession added, the Stonemason. In the last episode, we added the Fletcher's house and what's now my favorite build in the entire village so far. So grab your snacks and drinks and leave me a like if you want to, but for now, let's get right into the video. Good folks, it's really good to be back, and this episode actually counts as the halfway point between the start of this village series and what's going to be the end with the castle over here on the hill. And as soon as we're done with the village here, we're going to be going back over to Ventia, and so I figured now that we're halfway through, we should probably start thinking about building the path here that's going to lead all the way back over here. And just to give you guys a little bit of a frame of reference, this is how close to the kingdom of Ventia we are with the village, so it's really not that far. You know, seeing the valley up close like this really makes me miss home. We'll be back real soon. And since the Valley of Ventia is an island, we actually have to connect it up to the mainland over here with a bridge. There's a beach we have to build right over here. And after that, we pretty much just have to build a long path and do some terraforming on the way. And so over the next few episodes, that's what we're going to be working on in the intro time lapse. And so without any further ado, let's get ourselves ready and started. Roll that intro time lapse. Aw, yeah. And so to start us off, I needed to lay down a path of coarse dirt the entire way over to Ventia, which in total took me about an hour or so, which is no small task. But where I need your guys' input is what kind of scenery we should have along the way here between the two areas. Traveling merchants, that kind of thing, so let me know what you'd like to see in the comments down below. I personally think it would make it a lot more interesting if we had about 3 to 4 points of interest on the way here to make the trek between worlds a little bit more interesting. And the most detail I put into the path this session was right here on this natural cliff face where I needed the path to slope up the hill, so I went ahead and terraformed a bit and added some nice flower action. You can never really go wrong with bushes in this game, so I went for a bunch of red flowers and textured up the cliff a little bit. And as long as we make sure to add this much detail to a bunch of spots along the way and add our points of intrigue, I think the path here is going to turn out really awesome. And while the rest of the path gets built here, I just wanted to take the time to tell you guys that you should definitely join the Discord. The link is down in the description. It's a great way to share what you're building and an opportunity to ask other builders in the community for help. So definitely click that link, and if you just can't get enough Antlerboy, then you should follow me over on Twitch at Antlerboy Live, because I do really silly things over there, and in between the last episode and this one, I ranked 27 flavors of chocolate on a tier list. So definitely go give me a follow, but for now, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you back on the other side. Yes, back here on the other side, and as you can see, this is where we're going to have to construct a bridge to connect over to the mainland, and the only part where we really need to do some work to the path is right here by this ravine, because obviously we can't just have floating dirt. That's not going to look very good, so either we're going to have to build a bridge over the ravine and just embrace the natural terrain here, or we'll just have to cover it up. You guys can decide. And the path does pass by this nether portal here in the desert, which is actually my original desert nether portal from when I needed to collect sand. And before I had elytra wings, I felt like this was so far away from where I was building over here in Ventia. But once you have wings, the world certainly does become smaller, and I think we can move this thing. In fact, I think it's time we build another portal over in the village, because I'm wasting like 4 to 5 rockets every time I fly back and forth between these places. The trouble is where we're gonna put it, and I actually got a suggestion in the comments to put it down in the well. And so since we have such a massive episode planned for today, I actually went ahead and dug out the tunnel here. All we need to do is light the portal, but first we just need to grab the coordinates here so that we know where to put our portal in the nether, and then we can light this one up, and hopefully it should look pretty cool with the portal lighting effect. Maybe if we take out this lantern, it'll look better. Oh yeah, that looks really sweet. Okay, so ironically, we have to fly all the way back so we can get into the nether and build our portal on the other side. And so into the nether portal forest we go, and let's hope we don't hit our head. Okay, awesome. So the coordinates we need to find are exactly 141 here in the nether, and that is right here on this spot. So let's light this one up and just hope for the best here, I guess. Is it gonna take us where we want to? Yes. Okay, perfect. Now we have another portal linked. Okay, so the following is the plan for this episode. We're going to build the Stonemason's house, and it's actually the only one that I don't want to be inside the village. All the other professions are going to be here within the borders of our giant fields, but I want the mason to be outside because I want to build a giant quarry around it. And so I figured what better way to build the main structure in this episode than to build it on the road here. And so I thought, hey, we should build the quarry and the mason's house somewhere in between, and so I've picked a spot right here and laid out a little template for what this place is going to look like. And since it's outside the village, I get to go outside the style a little bit and make it closer to the style of Ventia. And seeing as that's the case, I want to do something pretty different from what we've been doing so far. And the plan here is going to be having a main structure that I'm building the box for right here. There's going to be a tower here in the back, an entrance area right here, and then this spot marks the area for where we're going to have the actual workstation for the villagers. And so first, let's just get this main structure in order. So I'm going to fill all this in, give it a bit of texturing, and we'll add some detail. Okay, the texturing and detailing is in. As you can see, we've got all these stairs here that you'll see what we'll do with in just a second, but you'll see that we left one space knocked out here. I think it would be wise to put an entrance here right away. And this isn't going to be the main entrance area, that's going to be over here, because we're going to have a pretty steep cliff over here, so I think we need a door to actually get out here. And so now you're probably wondering why I put these upside down stairs here. It's just to give us a little bit more space on the upper floors, because what we're going to do is we're going to start pillaring up with our oak here to create a frame. In fact, let me get my frame in here and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. Alrighty, as you can see, we now have a frame, and it sticks out a little bit because the stairs are coming out, so that gives us some more space on the inside. But it also gives us an opportunity to use depth to our advantage in the build here. Another thing I did to finish the frame and add some depth was using all these spruce details right here to create kind of a smaller arch. And I did that over on this side as well to create these mini arches. And you know what? I think we can safely do the same thing up top here. Alrighty, so at this point, we've gotten to a critical part of the build. See, in the original Mojang village, the mason's house has white terracotta for the walls, so I figured we'd implement that to just stay true to the original design. And I don't think I've used white terracotta one single time in Ventia for the walls of a house, so this is actually going to be a little bit unique for the world here. And so while we're building these, we're just going to keep in mind exactly where we want to put some windows and get that sorted right away. So far, I think that's looking pretty alright, but I think we can add more detail using some trapdoors and buttons here. I think that's looking like a pretty sophisticated design. Let me just get the trim of a roof in here so that we can start working on the upper floor area. And so this is the area I'm talking about when I mean the upstairs area. And so I think what we're going to do is just alternate between pillars of our spruce and oak here and some of the white terracotta. And so we end up with something like this, but I think we can add a few more details to this facade before we call it finished. A nice little thing that I like to do is just alternate trapdoors and slabs like this. And then for this one, I think we'll just finish off with buttons here to match what we did down here, and it should be looking pretty sweet. Yeah, I love how that's looking. That's awesome. And so while we're on the topic of adding small details, I don't really like how this is all flat. Oh yeah, that's looking really, really nice. I think our next obvious order of business is going to be just putting in the roof on this place. And what I'm going to be doing, since we're building a mason's house, is use bricks, because it kind of makes sense to have the mason have a brick roof. Okay, as you can see, I added the chimney, and we're missing kind of a substantial part of the house right here, but I'm trying to plan ahead and make it so I don't have to knock all this out once I build the tower and the entrance area here. But I think the brick textured in with the terracotta looks really pretty together with the white terracotta, so that's looking really, really awesome. And so I think it's time we moved on to the entrance right here. In fact, we're going to do kind of the same thing we did before and create a box for ourselves. And for the actual entrance here, I want to do something kind of similar the way we did over here with these stairs, put one upside down and one right side up like this. That way we can bring this part out a little bit on the sides here. I've done a thing here. I think it looks pretty cool. We've got the double arches, and we're going to put a doorway right in there. Alrighty, obviously we're going to have a pretty steep staircase coming up here, probably around the quarry that's going to be right here, I'm thinking. But for now, I think it's time I put a roof on this thing, so let me just quickly get that done. It's not going to be something super fancy, but that way we can finish up a lot of the main house as well. As you can see, this place is looking pretty good right now, and in fact, in the time lapse you saw, I added quite a few things on this side of the house. I added a small balcony right here, which I think is going to be pretty awesome because it gives you a great view of the town over here. And just imagine once we have a castle right here, it's gonna be sweet. But we do need to do something about this empty side right here, and I think I have a pretty good plan. We'll start by just knocking out some stone here to add a window, and then I think we can create a pretty cool effect if we use a couple upside down stairs like this, and then we just go a couple of those, maybe some walls. And then what we can do is add a small flower box right here. I would use the spruce trapdoors, but in the original house, they have the oak ones, so I think that'll make it look a little more faithful. See, now I think this side is looking pretty respectable. What do you guys think? think. Now that we've finished the entire entrance area, I think it's time we focus on the overhang we're going to have here over the workstation. And so I'm just going to bring this down something like that, and then maybe we'll bring this together a little bit higher like that. I think that looks good. It'll give a little bit more of a view from the outside in here as well. Now to put in the actual bricks, I think we actually have to remove these parts because they're not going to be visible. And then we can just fill all this in with brick slabs. Oh yeah, I'm loving that. We'll detail that more when we actually get the quarry in and we do more of the final detailing work. But for now, I think it's time we got to focus over here on the back because it kind of looks like a charged creeper blew this place up. So for this tower here, I have a 5x5 base, but I think I'm going to want it to taper down and get skinnier and skinnier as we get towards the top. And so I think we're going to start making this place a lot skinnier pretty fast. But for now, let's focus on getting some windows down here. And so I decided to bring you guys into a time lapse here to show off the tower, and towards the bottom I used a bunch of walls and slabs to create a bit of depth with the windows, and then I started working my way up, and I did break up the stone a bit by including these oak wood sections and made sure I used a gradient to texture the stone with more cobblestone towards the bottom and more stone up top. Then at the tippy top, I used a lot of the same details that I used on the rest of the house, buttons, oak trapdoors, that kind of thing, to make it a bit more interesting. And then finally, I finished things off with a very pointy rooftop to the tower and a nice flag flowing in the wind. Overall, I'm super happy with this one, guys, so let's get to work on the surroundings. All right, good folks, as the sun is rising here above our mason's house, I think it's looking really, really awesome. And I think at this point, I've just decided that yellow and red are going to be the colors for this whole area. And so I went ahead and I updated the flags over here so that these ones should be looking a lot better now than the ones we had before. Personally, I think this is a massive improvement over just the 2 red wool blocks. And guys, I've been hard at work on the interior of this one, and I really want to show it to you guys, but first, I feel like we should get the exterior finished. I said I wanted to build a giant quarry here, and so I've got together my beacon. And so let's get our haste set up so that we can actually dig this giant hole here. And even though we just came out of a time lapse, I think that's going to be the best way to do this. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's roll that time lapse. Oh yeah. And so to start us off, I had to dig a very large hole right in front of the house, and I quickly realized that I'd have to dig a way bigger hole than I initially planned for. But one of the things that I originally envisioned was this winding path leading down to different layers of the quarry, and I think it turned out pretty sweet. Maybe not exactly the way I'd planned, but I think that's part of the fun, that you just have to go with the flow. Now, as for this bridge here, I'm really happy with how it turned out, even though it would never be built like this in real life probably, but I just felt it was a bit more dramatic to have the entrance to the house be only accessible by crossing above the quarry. And I think it helps make the area feel a bit more industrial, especially from down below. Now, obviously, I couldn't leave everything as stone, so I textured in a lot of andesite everywhere and sprinkled in some gravel onto the path to separate it from the walls. And once I was finished with the texturing, I started laying out a bunch of details, but guys, I think it's time we check this out in first person with some shaders and get the tour of the interior, so I will see you on the other side. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am so happy with how this is coming out. Adding all these bushes around here is really making it look so nice. And just quickly before we check out the interior, I figured I'd show you guys what it looks like here down in the quarry, and I think it looks super cool. And the bridge really gives this place a very special and unique vibe. And so this is where I imagine our villagers get all the stone that they're turning into stone bricks and foundations for the different houses. It definitely turned out really pretty. I love how you can see the house up here, the flag waving in the wind, and some flowers up on the ridge there. And if we just quickly come take a look over here, this is where I actually put down the stone cutter and some pickaxes just so that they can go ahead and do some mining. But overall, I went with something pretty simple. And if we instead here come across the bridge and take the main entrance, I didn't have a lot of space to really do anything up here, but we have a hallway that leads up into this area. It had a lot of little nooks and crannies in this house where I could cram in something like a guest room right here. Pretty cozy. This is at the bottom of the tower, and if we come through this door over here, this is a little working shed. It's right inside of here. I don't know if you guys share the same memory, but this place kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and when I used to go to my grandpa's house. Every time we'd build something out of wood in his little working area, it would be a boat or a sword or something like that, and it would always be really fun, and for some reason this area makes me think of that. But if we instead decide to come up the stairs here, we have a little kitchen area the way we usually do. I kind of had a lot of space right here, so I could put a large dining table right in the middle, and if we move on over in this direction, section, we have this nice hallway with a lot of storage and bookshelves. I think it came out pretty cool. And we have another little one of these areas where I just decided to make a room. Maybe it's a child's room. That's why we have the creeper painting. I also changed this up to add a trapdoor just so we had another window without having to add glass. But if we come over here, we actually have the staircase going up this way, and it takes you up into a small little area here. This is the top of the tower. And remember how I told you guys that we're gonna do red and yellow for the flag of this area? I just kind of spammed these banners everywhere because they look pretty cool. But over on this side, you do get kind of a cool view of the village so far. It's looking pretty awesome. And if we want an even better view, we can of course step out on the balcony, and this view is just gonna be possibly the best one in the entire village. And if we come back inside, we've got the final room over here, which is of course the master bedroom, where we have a little place where you can maybe write your diary. We've got a nice little double bed here, and I added another one of these trapdoors as a window just so I didn't have to do glass once again. And overall, I'd say I'm really happy with how the interior of this one came out. And so, I have a tough question for you guys. In fact, there are 3 kinds of smiths in Minecraft. There's the armorer, the weaponsmith, and the toolsmith. And what I think I'm gonna do in the next 3 episodes is build them in a row. And so you guys need to tell me which one you're the most excited to see. But ooh, this is actually a pretty cool view of the Mason's house over there. I love how that looks over the fields. And what do you guys think? Should we bring villagers all the way over here or not? I'm gonna refrain from doing so in this episode because it's gonna be a massive headache. But if you guys want it, we'll bring some over here in the next one for sure. But ladies and gents, that's gonna be it for the Mason's house. There are more trees and details that need to be added around this area, but all in due time. So make sure you vote in the comments which one of the armorer, toolsmith, and weaponsmith you want to see in the next episode, and let me know what you want to see along the road leading back to Ventia. So if you watched all the way to the end and went and followed me on Twitch, then you're the champ, and I appreciate your existence. And until we see each other next time, have a good one.